Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. You saw the title and the thumbnail of this video, so you know what time it is. It is time for another 24-hour readathon. I will not tell a lie, guys. I'm absolutely loving this. I do fear that wasn't fully worth my time. This was exactly that. Short, sweet holiday. In 2025, my goal for 24-hour readathons was to do them every other month. I've done a few different methods and variations, but today what we're gonna plan on is we're going to split the readathon between 2 days, 12 hours each day. And once I start the timer, I'm not going to pause it. So it will be running whenever I'm doing my check-ins, whenever I have a meal, whenever I take a quick break, because I have been majorly battling a reading slump. So my goal for this is just to mood read and have fun. If I take the situation with the timer too seriously, it takes out so much of the fun of reading. So that is not going to be the goal today. My plan was to start the timer at 10 a.m., but of course I'm running a little bit behind. So we might be starting at 10:10 and going until 10:10 this evening. And I have some books in mind that I'd like to get to this time around, but again, I'm not going to be too strict or rigid about that either. It's been difficult for me to determine what mood I am in. So if we pick up a book and I'm not really loving it, we're gonna keep it pretty flexible if I want to put that down and try something else. At least what book I plan on starting with is The Blonde Who Came In From the Cold by Ali Carter. This is book 2 in a series by Ali Carter. The first book was The Blonde Identity, and these are fun rom-com-esque spy romances. Funnily enough, last year I read the first book in this series in a 24-hour readathon, and it was the perfect thing to pick up. Ali Carter's writing is just so digestible and easy to get through. I already looked ahead. This is just over 300 pages, and I noticed that the chapters are extremely short. I always find that so motivating whenever I'm reading, and then especially on the Kindle, whenever you get to a new chapter and you only see that it's 3 or 4 minutes until the next chapter, you just want to keep reading. So I think that this will be the perfect way to kick us off, and I'm very excited. From the blurb, I saw that this was described as a second chance rom-com involving 2 rival spies as they're forced back together for a life-saving mission. So I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with this because second chance romance is one of my favorite tropes, and Ali Carter is a longtime favorite author for me. So before we hop into this one, make sure to go down below, like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And let's get into the readathon. Let's do a little update because I'm about 2 hours into the readathon and 100 pages into The Blonde Who Came In From the Cold. Ali Carter does it again with another fun and bingeable book. We're jumping between 2 timelines of one present day, these 2 spies, Alex and Michael, as they wake up with no idea where they are, handcuffed and captured. As they're working through how they got there and who's hunting them, we're also seeing the past timeline of when they first met 10 years ago because they started at the CIA at the same time. And so as we're progressing through present day, we keep getting all of these flashbacks starting at 10 years ago and working their way forward. We know that they have some type of falling out that occurs at least 1 to 2 years ago, but we don't know exactly what happened. And at this point, them reconnecting in present day, they aren't too excited to see each other. So there is a lot of grumpiness and banter that is occurring in present day, but I do just love their relationship dynamic from the past. Alex is super sarcastic and witty, and it just grates on Michael's nerves. He's very logical and takes everything regarding the spy school very seriously. So they just have very different outlooks on life, and their personalities can clash, but in the same way, it's opposites attract and they kind of go perfectly together. My Kindle says that I'm 36% of the way through and I have less than 3 hours to go. So let's try and knock out this first book of the video. Just finished The Blonde Identity. This really is the perfect book for a readathon. So if you are battling a book slump that I have also been battling, pick something up by Ali Carter, especially as we get into the winter time. She wrote this Knives Out Christmas inspired mystery rom-com last winter called The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. And that is also a very fast-paced, fun read, but takes place over the week of Christmas and could be a very fun place to start if you've never read anything by her before. I'm trying to think if I like this more than book 1 in this series, but they are very comparable. I will say I did enjoy the second chance romance element, and I did feel very attached to these two and their love story because they were both very stubborn in getting there. But I do think that the constant jumping back and forth between timelines was a little bit abrupt sometimes. Sometimes we would get to a chapter and it literally would only be for 1 minute and we were just simply having a single conversation before flipping back to another time period. And I do feel like those jumps were a little bit too quick and we could have marinated in the moment for a little bit longer, because there were times where they were in the same locations but at different points in time, and I was getting confused of where we were at. Like, are we in the past here or are we in the present? Because it was kind of hard to tell. So that's kind of like my biggest con of this book and why I don't think I'm gonna give it a 5 stars, but I will save my ratings and everything until the end. Regarding what I'm gonna pick up next, let me grab my phone. I have this book upstairs, but I don't actually have it with me at the moment. I have this as an audiobook through my library, so I want to physically read some of this, but then I'll probably pop in the audiobook for a little bit this afternoon. So the next book I want to pick up is The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love by India Holton. I've read one other book by India Holton. It was The Mysterious Society of Lady Scoundrels. All of her books are described as fantastical historical rom-coms. So they're all kind of like written in the time period of the 1800s. There is generally a romance element to them, but there are some fantastical elements that occur as well. And it's written in the most absurd humor. So they're very silly. They don't take themselves too seriously. I did enjoy the other book she's written. I think I gave it like a 3.5 stars. It is the start of a trilogy, I think, and I haven't continued that trilogy, but I've heard Katie is reading talk about this book specifically and really love it, and I don't know too much about the plot at this point, so I'm gonna try and read like the first 10 or 20%, maybe give you guys a quick little check-in, and then we'll go from there. Six and a half hours of the way through this readathon, 5.5 hours left of today, and I just got over 20% through The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, and I stopped at chapter 6, page 72. So far, I'm already noticing that this is written in the exact same tone and writing style as the other book that I've read by India Holton. Again, it's just this like very absurd humor. I don't know any other way to describe it. It is written to be funny, to be absurd, so if you don't like something that does not have subtlety, you probably won't like this. It also kind of reminds me of the writing style of The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood, because that also had a very absurd like humor, except it's taking place in like 1800s England. So I feel like I've gotten the introduction to the story and our quest has just begun with our two main characters. But the main character we're getting the perspective of is Beth, who is a young professor and also an ornithologist who is hunting rare magical birds. When we're first introduced to her and her partner about to catch a bird, their plans get foiled by our MMC Devin and his bird hunting partner as they steal the bird out from under Beth. So obviously because of that, Beth instantly hates him, but he instantly thinks that she's like the most beautiful woman he's ever seen and wants to learn more about her. And their paths keep crossing because of them both being in this bird hunting field, and especially after a competition is announced and begins to win Birder of the Year. Kind of every major player in this ornithologist field kind of instantly becomes involved in this competition, and Beth and Devin are forced to team up to have any chance of winning. And that's kind of where I've ended off at 20%. They just decided to team up and the quest is about to start. So we will see where it's going. I'm enjoying it. It's silly, it's goofy. I don't think it's going to be like the most highly rated book. It's entertaining enough and the storyline is very unique. So at least I'm not having to push through a book that I feel like I've read 100 times before before. I've never read anything remotely close to this premise because even though it's written in a very similar tone to her other book, it has a completely different plot because while this is bird hunting magical creatures, the other one was lady pirates with magical flying houses. So very different plot summaries, but India Holton's writing style very much shines through. Because I do have the audiobook of this through my library, I think I'm just going to put in the audiobook, and if you watched my last video, which was an ultimate book video, you will know that I am criminally behind on my reading journal. So while I had this opportunity to just sit and read for hours and I have an audiobook, I'm going to kind of kill two birds with one stone, where I get to keep the timer going, get more through this book, but also get caught up on my reading journal. So let's go ahead and do that. Thought it was time to do another update for the Ornithologist Field Guide to Love. Just past 14 and a half hours left, so that means that we've read for 9.5 hours so far today. Will say, I feel like I'm starting to hit a wall, and even though it's already 7:45, I did just have a Diet Coke for a little spark of energy. I just passed 70% of the way through chapter 20, and I will say that even though this book is only like 340 pages, it is really starting to feel like it's dragging, which I wasn't expecting. I just feel like there's not enough progression going on with the plot. They're still basically on the exact same quest from whenever we started, but given the absurdity and the funny nature of the plot, every time they take a step forward, for some reason there's no transportation available, or they get to a new location and all the rooms are booked, or they get onto a train and someone's trying to go after them. So every time they try to take a step forward, they end up moving 2 steps back. And I think what's bothering me the most is the romance, because I do love a slow burn, especially whenever it comes to rivals to lovers. But I'm not joking. By halfway through the book, they were thinking in their heads that they loved each other, and 2/3 of the way through, they're already making declarations of love to each other. So I'm just like, well, what are we doing with the last 30% of the way through? If we're coming close to solving this quest that we've been on the whole time and they're already in love, what are we spending the last 100 pages on? I don't feel like there's been enough depth and complexity built to justify the page number at this point. Maybe if I wasn't trying to like marathon through this book, it wouldn't bother me as much, but I do have to think that 24-hour readathon or not, this middle part is dragging. So at this point, I'm not sure if this is a series that I would continue. I'm not liking this as much as her other book, which is so unfortunate because the cover of this, as well as all the other books in this series, are absolutely stunning. I would have loved to have these on my shelves, but I just don't really think I'm liking it enough to justify having them physically. So that is my little bit of a bummer update. I'm hoping that I end up finishing this with just over 13 hours left on the timer so that we can hop into our next read, and hopefully that one goes down a little bit better. But that is my evening update, and time to power through the rest of this book. We finished book number 2. Like I mentioned with book 1, I will reserve the rating for later, but my initial impression is I think I might be unhauling this book. Oh, all of my thoughts still stand. I really don't know how we spent the last 100 pages because things didn't wrap up regarding the plot or the romance until literally the last chapter of the book. So it either needed to be shorter or more needed to happen. But I do fear that wasn't fully worth my time. That stinks. But alas, time to keep moving. We have just over 13 hours left, which is where I wanted to be. I do already have the next book in mind that I'm wanting to get to. I feel like it's a guaranteed safe pick because it's from a series that I already know and love. And it's a little holiday novella, which I think a quick bite-sized read would be perfect right now. If you guys are up to date with some holiday novellas that have been released this year, you might know what I'm referencing, but that's going to be Holly by Adalyn Grace. I think this is basically a holiday special. This is basically a Court of Frost and Starlight. I think the two couples are together and maybe needing to buy gifts for each other during the holiday season. I'm not totally sure. I haven't even read the summary of the book. I just knew that I definitely wanted to round out the series, and a 24-hour readathon seems like the perfect time to tackle this one. Holly by Adalyn Grace is going to be book number 3. Just hit our halfway point for the day. We're going to pause with 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds left. And I did also just hit 50% of the way through this novella, which I will take as a win because that means we probably only have an hour of this left. This is exactly as I thought it would be, just a holiday novella following 4 POVs from the 2 different couples. This did start off as them all panicking about gifts to get each other for Christmas, but then swiftly turned into a little ghost mystery that Signa needs to solve in hopes of saving Christmas for everyone. Very wholesome and sweet, and definitely a very quick read, so I'm enjoying this so far. And I will see you guys tomorrow for day 2 of the readathon. Good morning, friends. Welcome to day 2 of the readathon. I just finished Holly by Adalyn Grace, and I have 10 hours and 44 minutes left of the readathon. I did enjoy Holly. I do feel like the best part of it is that we get a lot more closure for the couple that we're introduced to and followed within Wisteria. I do feel like that book ended a bit abruptly. I would have liked more time with them together, so we really get some of those feelings in Holly, which I really did enjoy. My other favorite part is there's all these illustrations throughout the book. You get one in every chapter, just depicting scenes throughout the story, and I thought that was really fun. I feel like the illustrations were the perfect vibe and matched the aesthetic of the book really well. It is hard to rate novellas because so little happens, and I really don't have any more updates to give on the plot beyond what I gave last night. It's very short and sweet. It's very holiday. It takes place over the first few days leading up to Christmas and ends on Christmas Day, which was very sweet and cozy. Put me in the holiday spirit, which is perfect actually because I plan on decorating for Christmas maybe tomorrow. I had a good time with it, and now it's time for book number 4 of the readathon. And I wasn't fully planning on this book. This is kind of a bit of a random pick. It is on my monthly TBR. I kind of really lost track of my days and when I'm meeting up with my book club for this month's read. We're actually meeting in a week and I haven't even picked up a book yet. So it is time for me to read The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. For this month, we're going to read the book and then watch the movie together, which I think will be really fun. But this is a book talk classic. This book came out all the way back in 2016. Okay, well, longer than I thought it was. I thought maybe this came out in like 2019, 2020. It's a workplace rivals to lovers dynamic. And I have heard that not only is the book pretty good, but the movie is really good as well. So I do love a workplace rivalry because usually that comes with a lot of banter, which is one of my favorite things in books. So I am going to get started on that one. I do only have it as an audiobook, so this one probably isn't going to be the most entertaining for you guys to watch while I read. I do need to start getting ready and everything because I do have a doctor's appointment and then a nail appointment later on today. I mentioned that I wasn't going to pause the timer, but I will pause the timer while I'm in my doctor's appointment, and then we'll pick it back up right after that because while I'm driving around getting my nails done, I can listen to the audiobook. Let's go ahead, get ready, and get going with the day. Got my nails done. I went for a very chocolatey brown. They almost look black in some lighting. Don't know if I'm loving them. These might not last too long, but I desperately needed to get my nails done anyways, so we're just gonna rock with this through Thanksgiving and hope for the best. But throughout driving, doctor's appointments, and getting my nails done, I have 7 hours and 47 minutes left on the timer, and I am 50% of the way through the hating game. I will not tell a lie, guys. I'm absolutely loving this. I messaged my friend in the book club who originally brought this book to our attention, and I texted her at probably 20%, and I was like, I'm already loving this. I'm just a sucker for banter, so these two are literal perfection in my eyes. The introduction to them and seeing how obsessed Lucy is with getting on Josh's nerves is so freaking funny to me. They both have an unhealthy obsession with one another, and all of their like subtle microaggressions are hilarious whenever you see how seriously they both take it. But I specifically texted my friend after the scene where Lucy has a dream and then she goes into the office with a risque little dress on and is literally torturing Josh with slowly giving the information about her dream. So good. So good! I'm loving it! I'm so happy. I didn't know how this book would go. It felt like a very random pick. This definitely isn't giving like mid-November, but it's so funny. I'm having so much fun, so I definitely cannot complain. Wanted to give you guys a very happy update. It's been easy to get through this first 6 hours of the audiobook with running around and everything, but I don't know how I'm gonna entertain myself for the next few hours whenever I get home an audiobook. So I probably won't bore you guys with just like having you watch me have headphones in. I'll probably catch up with you guys in a few hours once I get this done, and then we'll be on to book 5, so. Great news all around. I think this readathon is going very well. A few hours later, and I'm officially done with book 4, The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I officially have 4 hours and 21 minutes left, and I'll be so honest with you guys. I don't think we're completing all 4 hours today. I don't know what it is, but I find day 2 of the readathon so difficult to push through, and it's definitely a juggling act of push yourself so that you're getting out of your comfort zone, but not absolutely killing yourself and getting to the point of misery, because like, why would one want to do that to themselves? Very happy news is that I absolutely love The Hating Game. Because I'm like 18 hours into this readathon, I don't even know if I ever described what this book is. I know in my check-in that I just did, I did not describe the book. So I'm gonna do a really quick summary. We follow our FMC Lucy, and Lucy has the work rival of all work rivals, Josh. Immediately from day 1, whenever their 2 separate publishing houses merged, these two hated each other. Lucy is just like bubbly, bright colors, sweet as can be, and Joshua is very stoic, very serious and scares most of the people that they work with to death. But naturally, these two have to work together every single day, sit in the same office, and they have created some of the strangest games, they call them, such as the staring game, where they just glare at each other for minutes at a time. They'll race each other to different places. Overall, they're just super competitive with each other. And that's what we're really first introduced to at the start of this book, is just basically all the ways that these two are psychotic with each other. And it's absolutely hilarious because of how serious each of them takes it. Kind of the conflict of the story is that a promotion becomes available and a new position would be added to the team where whoever wins would be the boss of the other person. It's basically that whoever wins gets the other person to quit the company. So what starts as all-out war to see who will win turns into a hate-to-love scenario. And this was just a hate-to-love dynamic that was done perfectly well. I absolutely loved these two. The banter, again, I have to mention it, it was top tier. I would say it gives me similar vibes to Nora and Charlie from Book Lovers because it's kind of a workplace vibe and they have all of that tension and banter. But the main distinguishing factor between that on why this feels a little bit different is in Book Lovers, it's kind of grumpy, and in The Hating Game, it's very much grumpy sunshine. But genuinely, I had so much fun with this. I can't believe this book was written almost 10 years ago. I feel like it's aged so perfectly. Nothing about it felt dated or out of place. Like, this really could have been written last year and I wouldn't have even known the difference. So Sally Thorne seriously did such a good job with this one. I am so impressed. I also really did like the audiobook narrator, which I'm sure only added to the experience. And from what my friend has told me, she thinks that they actually did the movie pretty dang close to the book. I'll be the judge of that. I'm intrigued to see how good they do. But with now 14 hours and 17 minutes left, it's time to pick up book 5. Very much I'm not going to pressure myself with completing book 5. Again, this is supposed to be fun. And I'm going with quite a rogue choice. This is going to be such a whiplash. From what I just read, this truly couldn't be more different. But I think I'm gonna pick up Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wang. I'm genuinely kind of terrified of this. This is a dark fantasy, and I know there are a couple triggers to be aware of when going into this. They were listed on Goodreads, so I'm just gonna read these out to you in case this is something you want to stay away from. I know that this is going to be a bit darker than what I usually experience. The content warnings are for gore, sexual assault, and suicidal ideation. I'll be honest, all three of those things I do try and steer away from. The one I'm most nervous about is sexual assault, so I am nervous for her. But I do feel like this is going to be an important story. I think it's going to be immaculately written. I've never read anything by Emma Wang, but I have both of her stories on my TBR. She's an author that I've been very much intrigued about, and I've only heard amazing things. I think she'll handle these delicate topics with a lot of care. I think there's discussions all around sexism, classism, racism, because what the blurb says is that the first woman ever admitted to a prestigious order of mages unravels a secret conspiracy that could change the practice of magic forever in this standalone dark fantasy. This is definitely going to be something that's a bit outside of my comfort zone. I think it will be worth it. Just because something makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong or that you shouldn't read it. I will keep you guys updated. I'm gonna take this one a bit slower. The goal is not to finish this. For tonight, I might try and get like 20-25% of the way through and maybe break for the evening. I will let you guys know what I officially decide. And I guess that means it's time to start book 5. This was already pretty dark. Chapter 1. This one might test me. Let's do the last update of the night because I'm breaking with 1 hour and 52 minutes to do tomorrow. This book is going to require a lot. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just going to require a lot mentally and emotionally. I showed you guys me reading the first chapter of this book, and to be fair, that was probably the most gory and action-packed part of this book so far. We actually got our male main character's POV. His name is Tommel, and he is from a different race of people than what's in this middle sphere of a protected region. His people are known as the Quen, and they're seen as a lesser group. So the first chapter in his POV was really difficult to not only see him and his people fighting for their lives to make it into this protected zone, but what his life was going to be like afterwards, being seen as a lesser person, literally not even being treated as a full human being. That was already quite the way to start the book. Then we're introduced to Sayana as she's working towards and testing to be the first woman high mage at the University of Magics and Industry. Their two stories become intertwined as on her first day, instead of being assigned a proper mage assistant, she's assigned Tommel, who is a janitor at the university. And we have already just seen so many instances of racism and sexism. What's really difficult is with her being the first female, so many of the men are literally disgusting and infuriating at the shit they're saying to her, especially considering how hard she worked for this position. But what's really difficult, you can see her being put down by others, but then whenever she interacts with Tommel, she's more than fine to also put down him and treat him as lesser than. It's just a really interesting cycle going on right now. We see the men high mages treating her as less than, and then her treating Tommel as less than. Yeah, I think there's gonna be some interesting discussions of religion as well. What's really interesting with this magic system is God and religion is also brought up quite frequently, is kind of in their rule books. It's been really fascinating to watch her try and teach Tommel, who knows nothing about sourcing magic. He's someone who questions a lot, which I feel like is such a good characteristic. And there's just certain aspects, especially regarding the religion, that she can't really answer to in a logical or factual way. It's going to be an interesting one. I don't even think I told you guys where I'm at. I'm sorry, my brain's just spinning. I got to chapter 7, which is page 115, and that's about 27% of the way through. I am literally exhausted at this point, so I definitely need to go to bed. But that is my update on Blood Over Brighthaven. This is very different than anything else that we've picked up. It's definitely getting my mind racing more than any other book, and I will be very intrigued to see where ML Wang, I believe I said Wang previously, but it's ML Wang, takes this book. Finally have finished the readathon, and I am a little bit ashamed to admit it's been many days in between day 2 and day 3. I needed a little bit of a break, I won't tell a lie. I have been finding my current read a bit difficult to get into, but we will save that for later on. For now though, let's go back and think about my first few books of this readathon and my final thoughts, ratings, and opinions. So throwing it way back, the first book of the readathon was The Blonde Who Came In From the Cold by Ali Carter, our fun, lighthearted second chance spy rom-com. I definitely am biased in my opinions on Ali Carter, but I do just love her and I love her writing. My final rating for this is I just decided to give it the same rating as book 1 in this series, and I gave it a solid 4 stars. With it being more fun and lighthearted, it's not a book that's ever going to change your life or make that dramatic of an impact on you, and that's what I usually reserve my very high ratings for. But I had a lot of fun with this, and I would definitely recommend it to a large group of people. So if you haven't ever read anything by Ali Carter, I definitely think you should give it a go. 4 stars. Next is a book that I didn't love as much, and that is The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love by India Holton. Even though this book does not look chunky at all, it's not an intimidating read by any means. It just really dragged for me. I know I mentioned this a couple times in the video, but there was just not enough plot or development going on to justify the storyline. For what we had going on, instead of like 340 pages, we should have been around 250. There was just a whole lot of nothingness that was going on within the middle part of this book, and I understand a lot of the charm of this book is the humor, but at some point we do have to have some storyline going alongside the humor. So this isn't even my favorite book I've ever read by India Holton. I'm going to give this a 3 stars. It's not terrible by any means. The writing isn't bad. It's just one I would only very loosely recommend, and only if you do like that absurd humor and also have a preference for a historical romance. Unless those two things are very much your jam, I wouldn't go rushing out to read this. From there, I read a very short and sweet holiday novella, and that was Holly by Adalyn Grace. This was exactly that. Short, sweet holiday. Really not much to it besides that. I will say I was happy to get additional storyline from our couple that we're introduced to in Wisteria, but reflecting on this book, I do wish we had more of a 50-50 split between the couples, because actually we spent our most time with the couple from books 1 and 2 in the series. And because they had more time as a couple to develop, I feel like I already had a very good grip on their relationship and their characters as a whole. I feel like we could have done more with the characters from Wisteria. I'm purposely not saying their names because their names will be a huge spoiler to some other parts of the series. But if you have read the Belladonna series, I just feel like that couple's story from Wisteria was cut short. I would have wanted to see more. And the female main character specifically from that couple really was quite frustrating to me in this book. I found her to be more annoying than I've ever found her to be throughout the series. Disappointing as well. So ultimately I gave this a 3.5 stars. I read it in 2 hours, so if you love the Belladonna series, I would still recommend you going out and reading this. I would do this as a physical read as well, because you get the extra context with the illustrations that I think were beautifully done. But just being honest, this novella definitely didn't blow me away. From there, book number 4 was The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, and I do have to say this was my favorite book of the entire video. This workplace, rivals to lovers, hate to love romance was so freaking funny to me. I'm gonna go ahead and label it timeless, because like I said, even though this was written in 2016, I absolutely could not tell at all. I would recommend this to just about anyone and everyone. These characters were hilarious, and if you love banter, this is a must read. I did debate with how much I enjoy this one. Is it a 5 stars? But I do have to say, 5 stars is a feeling. It's unquestionable. You shouldn't have to doubt yourself if it's a 5 stars or not. So I'm going to give this the highest rating I possibly can. And I'm gonna give it a 4.75 stars. It was so close. I had so much fun with this, but I didn't get that special feeling that I get with 5 stars. And that's ultimately why that rating is so elusive and why I've given out like less than 10 this entire year. But if you haven't ever read Hating Game by Sally Thorne, please pick it up, and I would still recommend the audiobook for that one as well. And now that brings us to book 5, which I'm about halfway through, and that is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. I don't think this is the book to pick up freshly off a reading slump, teetering on a reading slump. This book is meant to be read slowly. It's meant to be taken in slow bites. This isn't something that you're going to want to inhale all in one day. There are so many topics covered within this one. Again, in my previous check-in, I talked a lot about the racism, sexism, classism that's going on. But really what's happened in this last 25% is really regarding religion. And the magic system in this world is so interesting because it's one of the most complex magic systems I've ever read before. And not only is it very math-based, but it also has a very heavy religious tone to it. There's a very strong sense of theology within within this world. And we're now ultimately learning with our FMC and her Quinn-born assistant, who's really opening her eyes to a lot of things, how weaponized this theology has been in their social structure. That has led to a lot of really difficult conversations, really difficult unravelings of our FMC's idea of what she knows and the truth behind her faith. I do just have to call out and admit to that the FMC in this book and her view of faith has really been infuriating me. Tamil is really exposing just how much of her faith relies on her not questioning anything. In that sense of faith, the faith without questioning, deeply, deeply upsets me on a human being level, just personally. So I found that to be the most difficult part of this book to get through. I'm trying to remain hopeful that so far our FMC's initial reactions to these discussions can be quite bad, but because her personality is so centered on finding out the facts of things and working out truth, I'm hoping that she'll be able to see his side of things, but it has just gotten increasingly frustrating. Her initial reactions to these discoveries and how her go-to is just dismissing Tamil and his experience and his worldview and the things that he's suffered just because she sees him as less than and as other. And it's just ever more increasingly frustrating when we also see how she is treated, being the sole woman within this field and constantly being looked down upon and treated as less than and other. Her lack of empathy is literally making me shake right now thinking about it. Just how frustrating this has been. And I was talking through this with my friend about just how upsetting these dynamics have become, but I do think a large part of the story is meant to frustrate me. It's meant for you to question humanity and make you uncomfortable. So I don't think I'm feeling the wrong things. I think this was M.L. Wang's intention when writing this book, but I do just have to admit that this one is quite heavy. So if you're looking for something that goes deep, that's going to tackle some difficult topics, this would be the one for you. But me looking for maybe more of a lighthearted read, something that's going to help propel me forward out of this slump, this was probably the wrong thing to pick up. But alas, here we are, 50% of the way through. It's my intention to complete this by the end of the month, so I will give you guys my final rating and thoughts and my monthly wrap up. So with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos and you don't miss that wrap up. But I do just want to take a moment to thank you guys for watching and listening to me ramble on and on about these different books. I hope you guys had fun. I really appreciate you choosing to spend your time with me, but this is where I will love you and leave you. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye guys.